The regular meeting of the Tiverton Town Council for October 22nd, 2012 is called to order, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Mrs. Mello?
Mr. Nelson,
Present.
Councilor Coulter,
Good evening, Present.
Councilor Shabbat,
Present.
Councilor Roderick,
Present.
Councilor Lambert,
Present.
Councilor Leonard,
Present.
Councilor Pelletier. Yes, ma'am. All present.
The following business has been brought before the council, including the consent agenda, proclamation for National Friends of Libraries Week. Under the consent agenda, approval of minutes from regular council meeting October 9th, 2012. Councilor Leonard abstains, absent. Approval of executive session minutes meeting October 9th, 2012. Councilor Leonard absent, abstains, absent. Approval of minutes from special council meeting January 19th, 2011. Councilor Nelson abstains, absent. Approval of minutes from special council meeting January 17th, 2011. Approval of executive session minutes from special council meeting January 17th, 2011. Approval of executive session minutes from meeting January 10th, 2011. Approval of minutes from joint workshop on January 5th, 2011. We have a receipt of minutes from three various boards and commissions, three in number. We have correspondence received, including correspondence from Barbara Pelletier regarding tourist accommodations, and this has been referred to the town solicitor, and received from Roger A. Bennis a letter regarding the Secundit bridge tolls. Approval of tax assessor abatements, 15 in number, which totals $10,249.25. Kate Michaud, administrative officer of the planning board, submits a report of activities for September. Town solicitor Denise Surratt, distribution of September revenue and expense reports, including distribution of the financial status report. Do we have any items at this point to be removed?
Yes, Mr. President. First of all, I would request that you read the proclamation. And secondly, CA6 to be removed.
CA6. Any other items to be removed? Okay.
Mr. President.
Do we have a motion?
Wait.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm making a motion to approve the consent agenda except for CA6.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? The proclamation for National Friends of Libraries Week reads as follows. Whereas Friends of the Tiverton Libraries raise money that enables our library to move from good to great, providing the resources for additional programming, much needed equipment, support for children's summer reading, and special events throughout the year. Whereas the work of the Friends highlights on an ongoing basis the fact that our library is the cornerstone of the community, providing opportunities for all to engage in the joy of lifelong learning and connect with the thoughts and ideas of other ages, past to the present. Whereas the Friends understand the critical importance of well-funded libraries and advocate to ensure that our library gets the resources it needs to provide a wide variety of services to all ages, including access to print and electronic material, along with expert assistance in research, reader's advisory, and children's services. Whereas the Friends' gift of their time and commitment to the library sets an example for all in how volunteerism leads to positive civic engagement and the betterment of our community. Now therefore be it resolved that the Tiverton Town Council proclaims October 21st to October 27th, 2012 as Friends of Libraries Week in Tiverton, Newport County, Rhode Island, and urges everyone to join the Friends of the Library and thank them for all they do to make our library and community so much better. By order of the Tiverton Town Council, October 22nd, 2012, signed by Jay Lambert as Town Council President.
Ms. Held is here to accept the proclamation.
Okay. Okay. Despite this terrible handwriting, I will sign it. I hate to do this for a librarian or somebody. I tell the story that I did in the 5th grade. I failed the Palmer method. Okay. It wasn't too bad.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much and congratulations. CA6.
Okay, Mr. President, I'd ask the treasurer, and I thank her for providing this information for us. As you well know, that there is an election coming up, so some of us may not be here, so I felt it was important that everyone knows that where we stand as of today, since the audit won't be completed until year end. Just to let you know that the preliminary adjusted surplus for the fiscal year, year end, is projected to be approximately $276,500. Again, I think it's from sound financial planning and spending that we have ended up with this surplus. And again, as I've said often, our job and our duty as councilors is to leave this town better than we found it. So hopefully, at least financially, we're on the right track, and this will continue in the future. And I just want to thank Treasurer Surratt for her hard work.
I'd like to follow up with a few remarks and second those of Mr. Roderick. And we also have in front of us, which is, of course, early for the fiscal year that we are in now. You have to excuse me, my voice is on the downside, but that we also, at this point, it's early, but are projecting a surplus for the fiscal year in which we sit now. And with the carry forwards from last year, the starting surplus from last year was $750,000. I believe that's the 3rd year in a row that we've run surpluses that are north of $500,000 or more. And I think it's really important that we look at this and remember, because I think my voice wasn't that bad. Yeah. So, you know, when this council worked on the revenue numbers, the town administrator predicted a surplus, and we, frankly, predicted a surplus too. And yet there were still a lot of people, well, actually not a lot of people, but a couple people that were calling those predictions phantom revenue and ghost revenue, and that we were spending money we did not have. And I think it's important that we take this time right now to look that there was in fact a surplus there. And there was a big difference between having that surplus and using it for one-time spending for things like paving roads. Instead, what's happened is you've now been overtaxed for this again, and that is now a new baseline money. We're to have the town running $750,000 surpluses 3 years in a row. Now, granted, I was the principal proponent of the policy which this council adopted, is ratcheting up our charter. You know, when we came here 2 years ago, we were nowhere near the 3% reserve that is required by charter, and we have adopted a policy which shoots to ratchet that up to 5% in small increments. So I don't have a problem per se with the surplus. It's good. We want a little bit of a surplus, but I think we need to remember this the next time somebody attacks the town administrator's revenue numbers, that they're being phantom revenue. I think that was very inappropriate. It's important to remember this. Thank you.
Mr. President, I make a motion that we approve CA6.
Do we have a second? All those in favor? Anyone opposed?
If I could just make an added comment to that. I think we need to thank all of our department heads and, for a job well done in managing their expenses. I don't know if you can hear me. In managing their expenses very prudently and trying to conserve wherever we could. Thank you.
That actually raises one more quick point, which is that another policy that Mr. Gonslow asked for and we sponsored was the department discretionary incentives. So for these departments that have done such a good job of saving $750,000 are going to have an opportunity to have a few $1,000s to spend on the areas that they think that have slipped through the budget process. And I think that's a really good example of how little by little policies like this can make a difference. Thank you.
Under open public forum for announcements, comments, and questions, we have one person on the sign-in sheet, Mr. Pagli Narini.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Welcome.
Thank you, sir. John Paglerini, 67 William Barton Drive. Wanted to give the council an update on the Ranger School. There's a lot of talk going around town right now. As of this morning, asbestos abatement was completed. You'll notice if you drive by, it has the word demo in big orange paint. That was a requirement of DigSafe before they would come out. All the windows have been removed from the building because the windows were covered with asbestos glaze and lead paint, so they've all been removed and disposed of. You'll notice the addition that was put on in the 70s, the perimeter wall was completely removed, the brick, because the cinder block was covered with asbestos. The roof was removed because it was covered with asbestos. But they finished that after 4.5 weeks of asbestos abatement. That was removed, and we got the all clear as of this morning. National Grid came out and turned the electric off yesterday so that the Tiverton Fire Department can spend the next 2 days training in the building before the demolition company begins, hopefully by the end of the week. The hope is that that building will be gone by Halloween, if not within the next 2 weeks or so, at which point the hole will be filled and the fence will be taken down. So I just want to give the council an update and let you know that we are progressing very quickly.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And if I can add a note, I want to tell everyone we have a very good citizen who has bought the Ranger School. I was at a workshop for Bliss Corners Economic Development last week, and Mr. Paglinarini was there discussing his plans and making some valuable input. Thank you very much.
I appreciate that. Although those plans may not be in place at the time that we offer our submission to the town, duly noted what the wishes of the town are. And I think that you'll find that should we develop the site, it will be what you wish for.
Okay. Again, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very much.
Okay. Under public hearings and public presentations.
I think I signed one of that sheet to be on a public forum.
There must be another sheet running around, but Mrs. Pelletier, you
May I
come to
please?
the podium, that's fine.
Thank you. Barbara Pelletier. This is just very brief. I'm happy to announce that actually the economic development gave me some seed money to get a brochure going to advertise our other assets like the walking trails and things like that to be posted. So I would like anyone who wants to be listed, has some ideas or et cetera, to give their input to me, and I shall come up with a most cost-effective way of doing that. And I think I'll leave a suggestion box, if I may, at Town Hall here, and anybody can put it in. The distressing news is that our meal tax has gone down 7.5% in the last month, which is not good, so I don't know why, but eat out, everyone. The other thing is that if we're going to switch to a new website, maybe we can have more businesses locally be listed on there, and we have it more interactive, if that's possible, I don't know. And the other thing is, I was looking at Fort Barton, which is such a wonderful site, and I thought to myself, how wonderful it would be if we put a comet star, a religious neutral star there for Christmas. You know, a star, maybe about 4 or 5 feet, with a big trail, and we could see it going over the Secana River Bridge and all. And I have actually no idea who's going to pay for it, how it would be paid for, who would volunteer to put it up there, but I wonder if that's possible?
I bet if you asked Jim Odell, he might have some ideas how to do that.
But I thought, what a magnificent thing, and you never know, we might get 3 wise men or 3 wise women coming. And you really never know. I thought it was a perfect place to be utilized for giving us something, and certainly a star is a star, and it's not like the Easter Bunny that we banned or anything else. We do remember that one.
Okay.
Just say, we did not ban the Easter Bunny.
No, but somebody, CNN and Newsweek had us banning him, so if,
I really don't know what to say, Mrs. Pelletier, but
Now, if I got
I think
some
it's something
figures
we'll
on
have, I think it's something that deserves further discussion.
but Christmas is coming, it's.
I know, that's why we better be quick
it's a
about
set
it.
date,
Okay.
and we don't usually move very quickly on anything, did we?
Ouch. That's true. Okay. We are going to try to move quickly on this. This is the season when licenses come due. And I checked with Mr. Tights, our legal counsel, to make sure I could do it this way rather than going through each and every application individually. So acting as a board of licensing, non-advertised, requests for approval of entertainment licenses. I'm going to read everyone the name of every business on the list. If anyone wants to be heard with respect to that particular business, and remember, it's request for an entertainment license only. If you want to be heard on that item, we'll remove it from this list. If anyone on the town council wants to remove a particular business from this list, we'll remove that list and discuss it further. And then at the end of the list, we'll have a one vote for approval of all of the businesses that remain. So under approval of entertainment licenses subject to meeting all legal requirements, we have the following companies. Silva Brothers, Inc., doing business as Barcelo's Family Restaurant. Now remember, if you want to raise any issue with respect to any business I'm naming, let me know at this point. Maybe just raise your hand. Spring Restaurant on Main Road. Benjamin's Sports Pub, Inc. Kafori, Inc., DBA Restaurant, Banquet, and Catering, 91 to 97 Crandall Road. Senior Lifestyle, Sakonnet Bay. Faith J. Bortz, DBA PJ's Cafe on State Avenue. Father Joseph Boer, Columbian Club, Inc., DBA Knights of Columbus on Fish Road. Woodrow L. Sylvia, Post Home on Shove Street. Bayview Holy Ghost Citizens Club, 66 Bottom Street. Hugh Jan Inc., DBA Little Bear Sports Lounge on Main Road. Everett Lane Inc., DBA Family Ties Restaurant on Main Road. Atlantic Sports Pub Inc., 70 Shove Street. Susan's Restaurant Inc., Crandall Road. Sandy Woods Farm Inc., Nani's Inc., DBA Nani's Kitchen and Pasta Shop on Stafford Road. Now again, does anyone in the public wish to be heard with respect to an approval for an entertainment license for any of those businesses I just identified? Does anybody on the town council want to be heard on any of these companies? Do we have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Do I have a second? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay. Okay, let me see. Okay. Again, acting as a board of licensing and as a public hearing, non-advertised. David L. Sisson, Pools Lane, a show cause hearing on the street excavator license. And that material is attached on the agenda as item C2. Is Mr. Sisson available?
I am.
Okay. Well, Mr. Sisson, what you've received is correspondence from the town clerk. And I'll read it. I think it'll be easier that way. On August 27, 2012, the town council issued you a street excavator's license specifically conditioned upon you meeting all legal requirements. On all your application, insurance, and business materials, you have listed the address of your business as 64 Pools Lane. It has come to our attention that such location is not lawfully zoned for an excavator's business such as yours, and that in fact there is a notice of violation still pending with regard to the commercial use of such property in a residential zone for this business. It appears that you are not meeting all legal requirements for your license. Therefore, on October 22nd, 2012, at the Tiverton Town Council meeting commencing at 7 p.m., there will be a hearing to allow you to show just cause why your street excavator license should be revoked. You are urged to be present, and you may present evidence and witnesses at such time.
Should not be revoked. Mr. President, I
Yeah,
think,
why don't you be more comfortable?
I think you read it as should be revoked. It actually says should not be revoked.
Oh, should not be revoked, I'm sorry, should not be revoked. You've received all of the material, Mr. Sisson?
I am.
Okay. It's my understanding that the address that you use is at least used as a mailing address, am I
That's
correct?
correct. Can you
put the
mic toward me, please? Sure.
Other than using it as a mailing address, are you conducting any excavations on that property?
No, sir.
Are you conducting any, what would be termed an excavator's business on that property?
No, sir.
Are you doing anything there other than using it as a business address, such as using it for vehicles?
No, sir. I gave.
Mr. okay. Mr.
I'm
Ra-
sorry.
yeah, Mr. Ames?
Mr. President, councilors, it's true that there is presently, as of this moment, an open notice of violation on the property. However, I visited the property today, and all my concerns about the excavation business being located have gone away. I took some photographs if anybody would like to look at them. I have only one copy, so you need to hand them around.
Thank you.
I've also received a letter from Erica Bate of A&E Metals Recycling in Westport, which I'm not sure made it to your packet, but it's very brief. It's one paragraph. If you would like, I will read that. It says, "To whom it may concern, this letter is to inform any concerned parties regarding the equipment belonging to David Sisson Contracting. Mr. Sisson of 64 Pools Lane, Tiverton, Rhode Island, owns and operates heavy equipment such as dump trucks, trailers, excavators, and backhoes. The equipment is transported to and from projects as needed. Mr. Sisson has stored this equipment at my business, A&E Metals in Westport, Mass, for the past 3 years." Signed, Erica Bate.
Okay.
At this point, based on what I've seen today and this letter from Mr. Abate, I will be sending out a revocation letter on the notice of violation.
Mr. Ames, are there any complaints from any of the neighbors on Pools Lane?
I have not received any from neighbors on Pools Lane.
Thank you.
Mr. Sisson, I guess the other thing was a recreation vehicle, and you took one of them and moved it back or something?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
it was the next day after I got the letter.
Yeah.
I moved my boat and camper into the backyard.
Backyard.
Mr. Tice, is there anything for us to do at this point other than simply leave it to
Well,
Mr. Ames to withdraw the notice?
But I just want to ask too, if I may, attached to the violation, there were some photos labeled, it says Sisson November 22. These are from years past. This was from the year when the violation was noticed? or-
Yes,
Okay.
yes. They didn't include a year on that?
You know, just as
It
November
doesn't have
22.
a-
Yeah,
no.
okay.
Or November question mark, question mark.
Yeah.
Well, it's either, yeah, it could be November question mark, or I think it's November 22.
Well, it's safe to
Yeah.
say it's not
But these are the
2012.
current photos.
Yes, that was taken today.
Okay, which we should,
Those pictures were taken in '09.
okay. So you are closing out the notice of violation?
I am.
Is that correct?
I assume there's nothing further for us to do then if the violation notice will be withdrawn.
Yes, well, I think you should actually vote to close the show cause hearing without taking action. I don't think you should
Okay.
leave it open.
Do we have a,
I'll
do we
make
have
a-
a motion?
I'll make a motion to close the
Is
show
there
cause
public-
hearing.
We have a
Is there
second?
public comment? Public hearing, right?
It's not actually a public hearing. I mean, it's a hearing before for the individual to show cause and so forth. It's not necessarily a public hearing, but if it's up to the chairman.
Do we have any public input at this point? Okay.
Yes, Roger Bennis. I have no problem, other than the fact that the license doesn't appear to indicate what has happened here today. I would think that, in all truth, the license should indicate that the 64 Pools Lane is a mail drop, and the actual equipment is stored at this other location, for clarification on the license.
Well, I think it's now part of the record, and we do have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor of, because we're now essentially rescinding the notice of violation.
Correct.
So we have a motion, a second, all those in favor? Anyone opposed? Good luck, Mr. Sisson.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Nelson, who made that motion? Oh, I'm sorry.
He beat me to it.
Leonard made it, and seconded.
To close the hearing with no
Close the
action.
hearing.
Acting as a Board of Licensing, public hearings advertised, and we'll follow the same rules. I'll read the list. If there is any reason to take a name off of the list, let us know, and the same for anyone on the town council. This is for a junkyard and second-hand dealer license renewal. Arnold's Auto Parts on Crandall Road. General Auto Recycling at 384 King Road. Alan J. Legacy, doing business as Legacy Salvage Yard, 20 Corey's Lane. Sanford and Son Ltd., 104 Cynthia Avenue. South Shore Tiverton LLC on Boogamosh Road. Tiverton Auto Parts on Boogamosh Road, 541 Boogamosh Road. And Tiverton Auto Parts, Inc., 533 Boogamosh Road, and Lot 116, Car 29. Does anyone want any one of those identified businesses removed from the list to discuss further? Anyone on the council? Do we have a motion with respect to the requests for junkyard and second-hand dealer licenses?
Mr. President, make a motion that all the licenses be renewed through November 30th, 2013, subject to meeting all legal requirements.
We have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Acting again as a Board of Licensing, and this is public hearings advertised, and these are for liquor license renewals, and the same rules will apply. Class A liquor licenses. Chandri Inc., DBA Tiverton Liquors at 65 Main Road. Nimraj Inc., DBA Crossroad Liquors at 1540 Boogamosh Road. Smittum Inc., DBA Stonebridge Liquors at 2490 Main Road. Class BV full liquor licenses. Silver Brothers Inc., DBA Barcelo's Family Restaurant. Spring Restaurant on Main Road. Le Moulin Rouge at 1403 Main Road. Benjamin Sports Pub, Inc. on Stafford Road. Faith J. Bortz, DBA PJ's Cafe at 301 State Avenue. Mykonos Restaurant, Inc., DBA Stonebridge Restaurant. Evelyn's Nanaquacket Drive-In, Inc., Kafori, Inc., DBA Brantles Restaurant, Banquet and Catering Family, 91 to 97 Crandall Road. The Boathouse Restaurant, Nani's, Inc., DBA Nani's Kitchen and Pasta Shop. Yujan, Inc., DBA Little Bear Sports Lounge on Main Road. Everett Lane, Inc., DBA Family Ties Restaurant. Atlantic Sports Pub, Inc. on Shove Street. Susan's Restaurant on Crandall Road. D&L Corp. at 180 Main Road. Black Goose Company, DBA Black Goose Cafe, 2160 Main Road. Again, if there's any names to be removed, just perhaps raise your hand. Class BVL Limited Liquor License. Classic Pizza, Inc. on Main Road. Soule Seabury Associates, Inc., DBA Four Corners Grill. Fu Li Hua Corporation, DBA Asian Gourmet, 1715 Stafford Road. Class BT Bed and Tavern. Senior Lifestyle Sakonnet Bay LP on Main Road. Class D Unlimited Club Licenses. Father Joseph Bora, Columbian Club, Inc., DBA Knights of Columbus. Woodrow L. Sylvia Post Home Association, Inc., on Shove Street. And Bayview Holy Ghost Citizens Club at 66 Bottom Street. Again, do we have any of those businesses to be removed for further discussion?
Mr. President, I just have a question, and probably the town clerk may know this. On some of the licenses, when they were originally issued, there were certain restrictions or things that they had to do in order to maintain that license.
Unless they've been removed, they're gonna still before.
Okay, so, but
Unless the
if,
petitioner comes in and says, you know, you told me I could only have liquor for certain hours and I'd like to extend it, they would have to come in to extend to that. So whatever conditions are on their license, we're just renewing it with the same conditions on,
okay.
until they come forward, if they do.
Okay, because my question is that I believe there was one license that might have had a requirement of noise abatement regarding fences, and I'm not sure if that had been completed.
I think there could be requirements on several of these,
Yeah.
but it will be carried forward to the new license.
Okay, so those requirements stay in effect?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Until they request that.
Do we have a motion?
Mr. President, I would
And
move
again, this is for liquor license renewals.
for all of the classes as listed, I would move this Board of Licensing approve.
Second?
All those in favor? Anyone opposed?
Subject to meeting all legal requirements.
Okay. Under appointments and resignations, and this is an appointment to the Board of Canvassers. I guess in a real sense, we don't have much discretion about this. It's all covered by state statute. And I'm essentially told who I have to nominate. We are provided with a list of 5 people. All of these are from the Tiverton Republican Town Committee, and they're submitting the following names pursuant to the state statute. And I've been in touch with Deanna Moran. She advises me that their request is that we appoint to the Board of Canvassers Jean L. Vieg of 8 Rim Rock Court. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Jean
Yeah,
M.
second.
Second.
I'm sorry, what was
Get
it?
it on the record, right?
Did I get V?
Middle initial is M.
Oh, I'm
M.
sorry. Oh, Jean M. Vieg, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
right.
And that's Veegh.
And just for the benefit of the people out there, the reason this comes from the Republican Party is you have to have an alternate from each of the parties, and it's the Republican alternate for where the vacancy is. So that's why it's coming from that party.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay.
Yes.
All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Under unfinished business, Councilor Nelson, proposal by Site Ready Materials for Eagleville Road backup documentation.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Nelson?
As we discussed in the last meeting, there were certain events that took place as the building code enforcement officer, Gareth Ames, attempted to gain access to the site of site-ready materials on Eagleville Road. So I suggested at that meeting that I would place this on the agenda as a follow-up. As backup to that, in our package, you'll see some letters that were produced and went back and forth between Gareth Ames, the administrator, the lawyer for site-ready materials. So at this point in time, I'd like to ask the town administrator, Mr. Gonzalo, to give us an update as to where we are with regards to the code enforcement officer's attempts to gain access to the site. Thank you.
Well, I think the code enforcement officer could better explain that, but simply, we have not gained access to it as of yet, I don't believe, and we are attempting to, and we are looking at how we can accomplish this to ensure that the permits that are in place are being followed. And I would let Gareth expand on that.
So Gareth, perhaps you could talk to both the issue itself of you gaining access, about the laws concerning your a business's ability to refuse you access, and also to the permits that you had correspondence on, I believe, going back several years.
Okay.
Thank you.
Essentially, according to Rhode Island general law, which is the enabling law for the building code, I have right of entry. I also have it under town ordinance. However, that sounds like it's really super, but it isn't, because it's subject to a lot of different things. If I have, for example, an open building permit, I can go on the property. Even then, a homeowner or a business owner can stop me from going on the property, in which case I would have to seek a warrant, a search warrant to go on. I have never gotten a search warrant, although we are in the process of seeking one now, but they are difficult to come by. We have to come up with probable cause enough for a judge to issue one. The other time that I can go on is if there is an emergency, and it has to be a real emergency. It has to be something not just, frivolous in nature. It has to be something where life is in jeopardy or whatever, then I can go on. But in any case, I can normally go onto any property where the public would normally come and go. In other words, I could walk up to a house, drive in the driveway, walk up to a house and knock on the front door. Going anywhere else without permission of the landowner is not allowed. So while I have right of entry, it's really very limited.
Okay, so perhaps you could tell us how you're working to gain entry.
Okay. In this case, I had toured the property at one other time in response to one of the 3 issues that I've had with LAL since I've been here. And at that time, I was invited to do it, and I met with the owner and his attorney, and we toured the site. in this particular case, I was invited by the planning board to attend their walkthrough, but I was out of town, I couldn't attend. So subsequently, I inquired of Mr. Brainsky about walking through, and he said that he would check with his clients and let me know. He came back shortly and said they don't want to do that. Then sometime later at, I believe it was either the second planning board meeting or one of the town council meetings, Mr. Brainsky was here, and I asked him at that time if there was any chance that we would be able to get on the property again, and he said that no, but he would check again. And since that time, he hasn't gotten back to me at all. Now, I subsequently met with Mr. Gonzalo and Mr. Seitz, and in order to try to figure out a way that I could gain access to the property, and that question is still up in the air as far as I'm concerned.
So perhaps Mr. Tights could give us his view on these issues?
Yes. Well, the problem is there are two overlapping issues. There is a pending application before the planning board, which we don't have jurisdiction over. That's the planning board, and the planning board conducted its site visit, and that's something, and as set forth in one of Mr. Bransky's letters, a lot of the so-called complaints about the current activity are actually concerns about the future activity that's proposed. And I'm not meaning to minimize those concerns, but they're not the same issue.
I'm sorry, I don't understand the connection between the past and the present.
Some of the items that are listed by Mr. Eames in his letter about, more information's come to my attention, actually are relating to, and the information that you provided us are in fact not so much concerns about the current activity as concerns about the future activity, which is the planning board jurisdiction, the proposed activity. What Mr. Eames needs to seek entrance on, and what he has authority to gain entrance on, is the existing operation at the property.
Right.
And I do believe there are two things. One is the licensing, and the other is the search warrant. And yes, we do intend to go forward to request a search warrant based on the fact that they have denied it. And I think, I can't guarantee that we'll get it or not. It's hard to establish the probable cause, but I think we have a decent shot of getting it at this point. Given the lack of access and given the change and given the issues that are there, I think we do have that ability. And the other alternative is to seek and to request. Again, this is before the planning board, but part of the issue is if they're not legally in compliance now, then they can't be going for an expansion. And there's a question that they're non-conforming use. They may need to be seeking a use variance as it is. The planning board can in fact not proceed further unless they provide for, a firm definition of what their current activity is. I think that's, as I said, it's two issues. There is some overlap as to what they're doing at the moment. And that's properly before the planning board. So the planning board may have the leverage on that aspect of it.
So the issue with current activities that you have a concern on, Gareth, could you walk us through those?
Sure. Basically, I think I gave you a copy of a memo that I had sent to Mr. Gonzalo about this.
Yes, we all have that here in front of us.
Okay. In that, I listed out the 3 points of contact that I had with LAL in the past. One about a fairly minor issue of a landscaping plan not being in place according to the planning board permit. The company immediately took care of that. And then I received a complaint about them conducting a retail business. And their attorney, Mr. Brady, came back at the time and pointed out that when they began business, there was a different zoning ordinance in place, one that has been since updated. But because it was legal at that time that they started up, they are now a legal non-conforming use for the retail business. The third was about blasting. I had gotten a copy of a blasting permit across my desk and asked about it. And that was the occasion where the owner called and asked me to come and tour the property. I looked at it. It was a relatively small area at the time, and consisted of rock outcroppings that they wanted to get rid of in order to provide more level area for.
Excuse me for asking, but the timing of that blasting permit was what year?
I don't have my timeline in front of me. I don't recall when that was. It's probably.
It was 2004?
No, I think it was 2009 or somewhere in that area.
Okay.
I gave away all my copies of my timeline.
March of 2010? Okay, please continue.
Okay. And then new information came to me regarding, I received a copy just recently of a composting permit issued by DEM. And the composting permit was dated just a month or two ago. It was in 2012. And at that point, up until that point, I had no idea they were conducting that sort of large-scale composting on the property whatsoever. So given that information, which really only came about by looking at materials submitted by the client to the planning board, that's when that came about, and I took action on that. Additionally, there are a couple of more zoning issues. One that in the course of the planning board application, they, generally speaking, will require that the client go to the zoning board as a precondition to get the zoning relief out of the way if needed. And what we had come up with at that time was that they needed a special use permit to do the regular processing that they were doing. And that also, in terms of the planning board application, there was the possibility that they needed a second special use permit, and that had to do with the watershed overlay district, which goes across a small portion of the property. And in fact, in looking at their preliminary, they don't call it preliminary, I guess it's master plan is their first one. In looking at that plan, a very small portion of a corner of the building that they were proposing was covered by that. It's a huge area. It covers all of Stafford Pond and several thousand feet on either side. So I brought up to them that this was probably not a good idea, and they were going to work toward, as they went through the process of honing their project before the planning board, they were going to work toward moving it out of the way. And so at that point, I didn't feel that it was worth taking up the time of the town or the zoning board with that small issue, which may have been resolved anyway by the time they got there. And I think that's about all. And what I did was I wrote a letter back to them explaining all this and telling them that that I had, number one, rescinded my opinion about the watershed overlay, because with lack of cooperation on their part, I couldn't be assured that they were going to move the building or anything. And that I also pointed out that they would need the special use permit for that, and the special use permit for the normal operation, and, excuse me, they had that, and the special use permit for the composting. Yeah.
So those are the key elements, if I could summarize, in the rationale for the pursuit of a search warrant.
Yes.
And
I can also say that I Googled Earth the property a number of times, and that's very informative also. You can see rows of compost, or what appear to be compost and so forth. But I can't substitute that for my own eyes.
I understand. Are there other comments from the council?
So, I know we have this for executive session as well, so, but we have something that we can swear out to in the pursuit of probable cause. Gareth can swear out.
Yes, I believe we do.
And Mr. Ames, the issues at hand are only the ones that are existing on the property at present,
Well,
not proposed.
as Mr. Tite said, there's a combination of the two. I do have issues with their plan. There's also a separate piece of property which appears to be being used now for storage of materials, and that's not part of their proposed plan at all, that piece of property. But it appears that that's being used when it's in the watershed overlay district, so I'm also looking at that to see if there's a violation there.
Okay.
So, thank you, Mr. Ames. I appreciate your efforts and anticipate a follow-up in future sessions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
While you're there, I might note, Gareth, that in your memo of October 18th, 2012, you concluded, and I'm reading verbatim, I met with James Gonzalo and Andrew Tights on Monday of this week, and I'm awaiting their guidance.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks.
Aye.
Aye.
I'm Patricia Pelletier. I live on Eagleville Road, and I would like to comment on some of the things that were just said.
I'm here to help you out.
Go ahead, introduce yourself.
My name is Michael Proto, 419 Eagleville Road.
I would like to comment, with all due respect to Mr. Ames, this is not frivolous to us. This is huge, what is going on currently at this property. When you have a company blasting, pounding, and crushing aggregate within private wells where people have no access to public water, it is a potential health hazard. On behalf of my neighborhood and numerous concerned residents, I would like to address the letters that are on the agenda, Mr. Ames's letters to Mr. Gonzalo and to Mr. Bransky. First, Mr. Ames states that he has reviewed the current uses of the property and that he is just recently aware that there is a leaf and yard waste composting registration because Kate Michaud supplied him with it the other day. In the code enforcer's file, the application for the leaf and yard waste is there from 2007. He states that this is a special use permit since 2007. This leaf and yard waste registration from the DEM requires a letter of compliance from the town. There is no letter of compliance. Multiple site visits have been made, and this activity was never recognized. How can this be? The letter also states that he was aware of earth removal project taking place on the property since 2010, and it is still taking place. He states that the selling of stone has been taking place. This is quarrying. And under the Town of Tiverton Zoning Code Section 15M, quarrying is prohibited. I have pictures of what this site looks like currently today. And what I don't have pictures of is what it looked like just a couple years back, when you can see a pond in the center of this property. This is wrong.
So these pictures, sir, these are all
These are current.
present- These are all present day?
Those are current.
Okay. And these are all
Per-
these are all the same picture?
They are all the same, so if you want to just
Thank you.
share those. Per the DEM, when 1 acre of earth or aggregate is removed from the property, or moved, not removed, moved, a wetland permit and a stormwater permit must be obtained, and neither are in the file. They advertise that they are selling this stuff. They advertise that they are selling the gravel, metal, they're accepting it. The company states that they are receiving metals and wood on the property. This requires a construction and debris permit from the DEM. Again, there is none. There is no letter of compliance either, which of course is also required. The neighbors have witnessed noise at all hours as early as 1 a.m., 3 a.m., 6 a.m. Foul odors are coming from the property, and dust is being emitted from the property. According to the code enforcer's letter, a strong legal stance has not been taken because this business has not been responsive. This is not acceptable. The business is now refusing the town on the property. Since the law states that the building official has the right of entry at any time if entry is necessary in the interest of public health, safety, and welfare, these are our most common and basic rights as citizens and taxpayers. And since this is most certainly, it is in the interest of the above, I ask if the town has inspected this property. And if not, when do they intend to seek a warrant or issue a cease and desist under the law so that our rights will be restored? There are only 2 companies in the state that have a construction and demolition debris processing facility license. I have a list of the leaf and yard waste composting facilities that are currently licensed. Site Ready is on that. They do not have a letter of compliance. This is illegal. We've approached the Tiverton Conservation Committee because we are very concerned about our drinking water supply, and they are also very concerned. We want the town to contact DEM now and review what is happening at 322 Eagleville Road. Thank you.
As I indicated earlier, Mr. Ames has indicated in a memo of October 18th that he has met with Mr. Gonzalo and Mr. Tights and is awaiting their guidance. The process we're following at this point is for Mr. Gonzalo and Mr. Tights to do whatever is necessary to ensure that there is in fact compliance with the permits and licensing requirements for the operation of this business. At this point, at least as far as I understand it, we're not involved in any type of proceeding in which, as a town council, we would have any fact-finding responsibility or jurisdiction. But the assurance is that, as with all of these complaints, they will be handled by Mr. Gonzalo and Mr. Tights. Mrs. Moniz?
Yes, thank you. I'm concerned as a resident in this town, and I'm really concerned about the sense of urgency because of my own experiences. So can I be safe in saying that where we stand is that we're looking for a search warrant in order to go onto the property? Is that what Mr. Tights said?
Yeah, I mean, this is on for executive session. As indicated, as you heard from Ms. James, it was only a week ago, it was last Monday that we were talking about it. This is the council meeting, and I do intend to discuss it with the council. And I would like not to discuss our strategy in public, but yes, I've already said that. I think it is our intention to seek a search warrant, among other activities. Obviously, the town has a long history of DEM permitting various activities that are not otherwise allowed by zoning, and we actually worked with Senator DePalma trying to get the law changed on that, to make it that they had to get the letter first before they could issue their permit, rather than just a rule saying we issue it only if you have local permission, and we were unsuccessful in that. But we will be taking, whatever action that we can take on our own to move forward with it, because it is a concern that there is an operation that may be violating our existing laws, and while at the same time seeking to expand its operation. So we do intend to move on it.
The DEM does have a law that states that a letter of compliance is required.
Right. But as you well know, that means nothing to DEM. So we don't intend to wait for DEM. I mean, we'll contact DEM as well, but I don't intend on relying on DEM.
No, but when a search warrant is,
Mrs. Moniz, we can't.
I'm just going to ask questions that were already stated. I'm just trying to clarify something that was already stated, Mr. Lambert.
I think Mr. Tights has made it clear that he's uncomfortable as legal counsel.
Well, I'd like to state that I'm uncomfortable with how Mr. Ames answered the question that Mr. Nelson asked, because he did not answer the question.
Then file a formal complaint. And we've gone as far as we're going with this issue. If Mr. Tights is uncomfortable at this point, and this is an issue that he wants to address in executive session, we're deferring to his judgment.
Mr. President?
You mean to tell me the drinking water that most of the citizens of this town drink is not an issue? It's not important?
Mr. Moran, let me, you're the last speaker. Let me make it clear.
You don't really want to hear about this.
Mr. Moran, sit down.
It's on the agenda, I'm speaking.
Mr. Moran, sit down.
Why?
Because I told you to, and I'm the one that's conducting this hearing.
What are you going to do, spank me?
Do you want the chief to ask you to leave?
It's a public meeting, I'm allowed to speak.
Please act like a gentleman and sit down, would you please?
Look at the camera, there's an election.
Mr. Moran, please try to act like a gentleman. Now, let me try to make this as clear as possible. We do allow through the open forum, and we allow through the agenda an exchange of information to the extent that we can. We're not here simply to open up this for general discussion on every possible issue that might be of concern. We have to follow a certain process. I know some of you don't like to hear it, but when I say that we have no jurisdiction of a particular issue, for example, the issue that's before the planning board at this point. Mrs. Moniz, can I be blunt? Would you shut up?
Oh, for Christ's sake, she's a... Damn it.
Okay.
It's freedom of speech.
This meeting, no, wait a minute. This meeting is getting a little too disruptive. Please stop it. We're moving on to the next issue. What we are trying to do as a town council is provide you with as much information as we can. I understand at times some of these issues become difficult. I can understand that you're frustrated. I really do. But we have to follow a certain process that's either dictated by our own charter or dictated by statute. And that's all we're trying to do here. I hope we're giving you enough information that you do appreciate. We're trying to address the issue, but we're trying to address the issue within the process that's been set up. And we have a process that we're following. Whether it's the issue before the planning board or whether it's the issues here tonight.
And if I could, Mr. President.
Mr. Nelson.
In closing, I would just ask everybody to please trust us, to look into this information that's been brought to our attention, and please try to remain calm, because it really doesn't help anybody for us to argue about these types of things in this manner. So we will follow these leads.
A quick observation as well.
Yes, you can.
May I be heard?
You can.
After listening to all of this, I live right across the street from this, so I got a hell of a concern. All day, I wasn't feeling well today, so I stood home. All day, it was like, you know, it was jackhammer, a hydraulic jackhammer continuously, all day. So, you know, and they've been blasting all year this year. But the point what I got up here to say, that bothered me all day because I didn't feel well and I couldn't even feel comfortable in my own damn house. But question I have, how can the planning board take this any further when they're not even, and expand, and try to expand this thing, when they may not even be in compliance? How can they even be considered for expansion? I don't understand that. Maybe I'm a dumb man, but I'm smart enough to realize if you're not in compliance now, how the hell can you let them expand?
And I believe...
You know, that's all I want to say, because I'm not going to be told by shut up by anybody either.
Is it Mr. Deshane? I'm sorry.
You know, that's the only point I want to make. And I was heard, but I'm just asking one question. If they're not in compliance, how the hell can they expand? How the hell can they even be considered to expand? That's a layman's question, but it's a damn good one, I think.
It is a good question.
They shouldn't even be considered. Shouldn't even be considered by the planning board until at least they're in compliance. It should be tabled.
Okay. We're going to move on, but the only issue I'm trying to make is, if you're frustrated, and I apologize, Mrs. Moniz, I shouldn't have got angry. Mrs. Moniz, you are entitled to make your comments. But we can't let this degenerate into to the point where we're in arguments. We're simply giving you an opportunity to address your issues. We're trying to be responsive to the extent that we can. But you're going to have to appreciate there is a process that we have to go through, whether we like it or not. And the truth is, and is it Mr. Deshane? We truly do not have jurisdiction over the matter that you want to address at this point. It's with the planning board.
I got one quick thing to say.
Okay, Mr. Pelletier.
I just want everybody here to Google, my wife made this up with the Google,
Mhm.
what's present here right now. The cartridge and the ink, that's why we couldn't go back and do it. We ran out of ink to do them. I'd like to see everybody on the planning board and you commit Ames to go back about 10 years and look what the property looked like. Like she was saying, there was a pond there was all wetland over here. And if you go back, it's amazing what they've done. You can notice for 24, you go by 24. If you haven't noticed that, you're gonna be blind.
Okay, Mr. Pelletier, if you want to give that to Mrs. Mello, we'll make it part of our record. Okay, she already has a copy.
Excuse me,
Okay.
Mr. President, just quickly.
Mr. Coulter?
I just want to, I can't see her because of the post, but I appreciate you coming forward, Mrs. Pelletier. I just wanted to make the comment that a search warrant is much stronger than unilaterally asserting emergency authority. And most of the litigation that we deal with, other than Bay Street, is zoning, planning, because the process wasn't followed to a T. It leaves it open to attack. So I promise you that we will do everything possible to follow. We want to follow the process exactly correctly so that we don't end up with another one of these zoning cases that go on for 5 or 6 or 7 years. If Mr. Ames just charges in there, they can tie it up in the courts for years and years. So we want to get it just right. I promise you we'll look into it. Thank you.
The next item of business under new business, ratification of the IBPO contract, July 1st, 2012 to June 30th, 2015, with a public impact summary attached. Mr. Gonzalo.
Thank you. The contract to be ratified is before the council, and it is going from, it's a 4-year contract, 1 + 3, and it's from FY 11-12 to FY 14-15.
I'm not going to interrupt. I'm recusing myself. Sorry.
some of the items, let me point out some of the significant movement that we have been able to make. The first thing is the acceptance by the police department of a health savings account, which will be implemented January 1st, 2013, which should save the town approximately 23% or 26% in healthcare premiums, in addition to the fact that it more than doubles their copay in the process. Another significant item is that we've been able to extend their retirement to 25 years for all new employees. Today, it's been a 20-year retirement program. Going forward, as of July 1st, 2012, it will be a 25-year retirement program. We already have one person that fits into that category. We have an opening that a second person will fit into that category. And then we have two potential retirees that may shortly fall into that category also. There are some other minor items, such as comp time will not be reimbursable once they separate. Any comp time that they have accrued will be just left. We have increased the amount of comp time from 40 hours to 240 hours so that it will hopefully lessen the impact of overtime cost. And the comp time has to be approved by the police chief before it can be taken. We've allowed them to have 2 men on vacation at one time as long as it does not create overtime. The detail pay has gone up slightly. We have given them a funeral line of duty credit or funeral line of duty amount of $5,000, which we hope we never have to pay. But if anyone is killed in the line of duty, we will give them $5,000 toward their funeral expenses. There's been a rank restructuring. We are now going to have an administrative lieutenant who can take care of a lot of the needs electronically and administratively in the department. We've given them an additional personal day. They're now going to be getting a $50,000 life insurance policy. They had no life insurance policy. All of our other employees have a $50,000 life insurance policy with 2 exceptions. Probation. We have extended the probation for a police officer by 4 months. The first few months he's in the academy, so he's not on the road. We can't really judge his performance. So they have agreed to extending the probation from 12 to 16 months. And then the next class will be reduced, second class will be reduced from 12 to 8, so that they will still be able to achieve first-class patrolman in the same amount of time. Their sick leave, current employees are capped at 145 days of sick leave. New employees will be capped at 100 days of sick leave. We have given them a health and wellness of $500, which we're trying for this contract only. It has a sunset clause. In order for them to get the $500, they have to show receipts of a health club or something. We're trying to encourage our officers to stay in shape. We have increased their sick days from 15 to 18, but one of those sick days will go into a sick bank. Their salary increases for the first year was 0. I might add that they have not had a salary increase since January of 2009, and that was a 1.5% increase. The next salary increase will be effective July 1st, 2012, and that will be 1.5%, the second year 1.5%, third year 2%. Another major item which is new is post-employment benefits. This is a growing concern throughout the state, and it simply is the cost of benefits that we provide once an employee retires. There has never been any contribution toward that, and it is a growing concern. They will now be contributing 0.5%, 0.5%, and 0.5% in the 3 years, first 3 years, of their salary as a contribution for their post-employment benefits. Additionally, another major item that we've been able to secure is once the employee retires, they pay nothing for medical. We are now going to be getting 1% of their pension toward their health care for all new retirees effective July 1st, 2012. And then we increase their clothing allowance by $25, $25, and $50 in the third year. The cost summary, cost impact statement, shows an average increase over 4 years of $63,000 a year, which is 0.65% average. One of the things that was on the cost summary that we need to explain is pension. We've all heard about pension reform. We've heard that the town of Tiverton has one private pension, and that belongs to the police department, and that pension is in critical condition because it's below 60% funded. We are in the process, and we have just recently completed, it's in for review now, a plan to emerge from critical status with the pension. Down at the bottom of the cost summary, for all those who saw it on the internet, we have costs attributed to the current employees. We have costs attributed to prior employees, and then we have the member contribution. We are required to make an annual contribution to our pension plan, which is referred to as the ARC, A-R-C. The required contribution for FY 11-12 was $784,723. We only contributed $550,000, which was $50,000 more than the previous year. So we were in a deficit of $234,723. This year, all right, we asked for and received a budget of $700,000. And with that $700,000, we will be making an excess contribution of $111,637 next year, maintaining the $700,000, and of course these are estimates. We will be funding an additional $108,000, and in the third year of the contract, an additional $102,000. We will be emerging, according to our plan, we will be emerging from critical status in 8 years, which is very acceptable to the state of Rhode Island.
So the definition of critical is 60% funded, is that right, Jim?
Correct.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. Coulter?
And I want to thank Jim for all of his hard work on this, and particularly in the upgrading of the fiscal impact statements, which I think are much more transparent. And I think I'm not going to rehash everything that Jim just said. I think we all recognize this is a wonderful result for the town and for our police officers. But I do think we should just think for a moment, in case you're wondering, you know, what's going on in these long executive sessions that sometimes approach midnight. We have put hours upon hours into these labor contracts, and the reason why that's so important is because each one of these major contracts is a building block, if you will, to the kind of long-term financial planning that we've been trying to do with the health savings account. And by the way, this contract is a binding arbitration contract. I think Jim forgot to mention that. That is generally not favorable negotiating territory for us. It says a lot to the amount of work both sides put into this. But the health savings account is going to save the town hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. And now our firefighters and our police officers have taken the lead on this, and I think what we're going to see is other groups in town following their leadership, and we're talking real money there, and that just can't be forgotten. So when you think about, this is sure just this one contract, but what you're seeing here, all these contracts, it's actually a 4-year contract because of the way it works with extensions and whatnot. All of them are hovering right around 2% total cost, and I mean total cost, not, we're not going to look at health insurance, that's just a couple million. This has everything in it. And these contracts are all rolling in right around 2%. And you know what? If every single part of your budget comes in at 2%, then every single year your taxes are coming in at less than the tax cap and less than inflation, and you still have some money left over to do things like meet the pension liability that we've started to turn around. There's a long way to go there. And you have some money set aside for some other things like the library. And that's really, so I know sometimes I just sort of go on a little geeky about this, but I just can't stress how important these things fit together to a long-term piece, that we can have it both ways. We can have controlled taxes and still have all the services. And last, you think about that, there was literally almost no money in the town. We had quite a 3% charter reserves. There was like 0.2, and now we've crossed the 3 and it's growing. The next level for this, and I can't wait to see the actuarial crunch on this, because the police pension liability was in critical status. We're going from 20 to 25 years. We have OPEB contributions. We've raised the pension contributions from $550 to $700, and as Jim said, 1% of pensions went back into healthcare. And I think what you're going to see, when you see that actuarial report, is that we will have actually turned around this police pension. It's going to take time. It won't be finished next year. But you think you really have seen a turning point here, and I just think that's something that we should really celebrate, quite frankly. Thank you, Jim, for all your hard work.
And if I could just echo those remarks, I have personally seen over the last 2 years, in my term, in our term, multiple observations or even criticisms that our sessions last for 4 or 5 hours, and that we spend hours and hours in executive sessions. And here is a good example of what we were doing. This is just one example of the 3 union contracts that we were able to negotiate and finalize in this term, as well as with department heads of both the fire and police. Significant changes with regards of the way this, especially the benefits are delivered and the way the cost is shared. So, without patting ourselves on the back, I do definitely want to extend my thanks to, to the police union that recognized the financial straits that Tiverton was in, and how they contributed to the success of this negotiation. So thank you.
Any comments, questions from the public?
Yes, I'm the public. I'm Donna Cook, and I do have a question. With the economy the way it is, it just seems to be. Has anyone ever thought of 401ks? Why is it always pensions?
Man, who did.
Yeah, yes, believe me.
I have to tell you, all those conversations we had.
There isn't a plan we didn't think about.
Yes.
I, for one, it might not be popular, but you just can't afford pensions anymore, and it needs to be changed over to 401ks. And it's just getting way out of bounds. I know it's not popular to talk about it, but it needs to be on the table. It needs to be weaned off, or something needs to be done, because for every one employee that you have, you're still paying for 20, hundreds. You know, don't look at just the one, you're looking at hundreds that are getting the health insurance, the pensions. Who can keep affording that?
If I could, I think the detail, maybe Jim, you want to go first, or?
It's still a
Well,
pension,
the
is it
the
not?
detail in it for us was that you have all the current retirees receiving benefits.
Right, I know.
And you also have the current employees who are already part of the system.
Right.
So you have to be able to fund that benefit stream
That's what I'm saying.
immediately, and then, but in order to create the 401K, not only do you have to fund those, but you also have the shortfall that we talked about.
401Ks, you use your own money.
But now the 401K would be a brand-new initiative
Well, why
that
don't we
would be on
start
top
it?
of all of that. So it's a significant undertaking that that we understand that that's an opportunity, however, not for this contract. And I hope I said that
Oh, no,
correctly.
I think you did a
I
good
understand
job.
that.
No,
It's
I-
signed,
I-
the ink is dry. I understand that. I'm saying that we need to get away from pensions and go to 401K, and how do we do that?
We understand that, okay, and we had discussions on that. We also had discussions
But we
on-
seem to lose the discussion. The taxpayer's a
Well,
loser.
You gotta let me finish, so I can tell you what the result was.
I'm sorry.
We had discussions, first of all, on joining the state pension plan, okay, to see if there was any advantage there. And we were told, yes, you can join the state pension plan once you fully fund the current plan, okay? And then it's not a simple thing to attempt, and I don't even know if it's possible, to change the current pension system to a 401K. As Mr. Nelson indicated, you would have to continue to fund this and then go to a 401K in addition to. And now, when you go to a 401K, the employer usually has some kind of match. It may be minimal, but,
They stopped it where I was,
well,
you know,
Well,
take it
that's
or
all-
leave it. I
That's
mean,
part of the
what I was
negotiation
told.
with the union, is really what we did.
No, I know, but that's the way it goes.
there's another very important point that, was mentioned earlier. I'm not sure whether it was by Mr. Nelson or Mr. Coulter. There is binding arbitration with this contract, okay? And,
So the taxpayer really has no say.
well, it's not that the taxpayer has no say.
Someone comes in here and says that we have no say. They're not even the town. I know what they do. As far as going to the state pension system, that's also paid with taxes. I mean, it's a lose-lose situation. I just don't understand why we can't move out of the pension system and move to a 401K. And if we have to do it at the same time, so be it, to get away from it. We just can't keep affording it. People are trying to move out of town left and right.
If I could, Jim, just...
I know you
just-
think you did a great job, and it sounds like you did, and you did the best you could. But I'm asking that we move to a 401K and get away from pensions. It's killing us.
Yeah, if I may, Jim, believe me, we understand. We've all had this discussion, and...
And we always lose.
No, you're not losing. Actually, this contract is a win.
We still have pensions. We still have people that are retired getting full health benefits.
And we are slowly changing that. But as everyone has indicated here, the cost to get out of this, to go to a 401, is prohibitive, because you have to remember, you still have to fund those who already have their pension. And the people who are in the pension presently are the ones who are also partially funding that. If they go out of that plan and now go to a 401, just to say using a 401, well, those funds needed to have the people who are already on the pension, would have to be made up by the town, so that our liability would increase by leaps and bounds. So financially, at this point in time, and everybody's looking to get out of pensions and find something else, but it's not something that can be done overnight. It's going to be a long-term as you slowly
Well, you gotta start
change.
somewhere.
And we
How-
have started. And we have started, as now they are contributing. So we are taking those steps, but financially, it is a big burden for anyone to get out of one plan
Well,
and
why are
move
they
to
allowed to
another.
retire in 25 years? Who does that? 20 years, and then you go on and you get another job somewhere, and you got two, I mean, come on. This is craziness. Just because it's been done that way doesn't mean it has to continue that way. It's just cost prohibitive. Everyone's going into bankruptcy, and it just can't. You go, well, we have 50, let's just, I don't know how many policemen we have, okay, don't. But let's say we have 25. Well, actually, you're paying for maybe 50. All the policemen since the beginning of time, you know, you can't just look at 50 employees, you're looking at hundreds. You know, it goes fans out. You know, how do we stop it? How?
If I can make a...
I mean, everyone's trying to explain it to me, you know, it has to be done in small increments.
Mrs. Cook,
but-
well, Mr. Leonard.
Let me make a couple points. First, I want to re-emphasize, as it's been said before, that for police and fire, they have the right to go to binding arbitration. That's a fact. And if you look at the record, whenever contracts go to binding arbitration, the management side, in our case, the town, frequently comes out on losing, if you will. There is history with that, and we're not going to go through all that.
It doesn't look
But
very
I
balanced.
would say that one of the places that you need to address your concern is not here, but to the General Assembly, and address the fact of binding arbitration. And I'm sure that the union representatives would have a different view.
Oh, no,
but
I
that's-
understand. It
that's there.
seems to be a losing proposition here.
Well, now, the other thing I want to point out, you can't underestimate the impact of binding arbitration. So you can't just, like where I worked, my pension was changed, and that was that. And I have a union, but the laws in that state were different, and that was that. The other thing I want to make a point of is that we in the town got into this situation over many years. And I, for one, am not an advocate of balancing the accounts on the back of retired police officers who served the town well and long. They didn't cause the problem. Many of them don't get a whole lot of money, and I don't think it's just to try to balance everything on the back of people that have been retired for a long time.
Well,
And-
Counsel Leonard, I didn't say,
let
I
me
just
finish,
gave an
please.
example.
I
It wouldn't
understand
be to
that.
change what someone already
Ma'am,
has.
I understand. I'm asking you to understand that this is a complex, multi-year problem that we cannot solve all in one bite. Speaking only for myself, I personally don't want to solve it on the back of retired people who served this town well and for years and years. Some people think that's okay. I don't, speaking only for myself.
Well, I'm sorry, that
So,
is,
we
that's
can't-
not
we
what I
can't-
said. I said,
Well,
how do
I
we get a new
understand what you
plan
said.
to go forward? I wasn't,
And we've
as far as
three
being
different
political
people-
about
three different-
retirees. Come
three
on,
different
that's not
people-
what I was saying.
3 different people have told you we've fully considered 401Ks. And we did. We looked into it in great detail.
And you're saying it's
And
too
you can't-
expensive to start 2 of them.
Right now. That doesn't mean it's dead for the future. But right now, we have 60% funded, so that means we'd have to come up with 40%.
I don't know what that is, but that's a lot of money.
Tens
We
of
don't have
millions.
it. Yeah, we don't have it.
A lot of money.
So we need to pay off the underfunded part before we could do a 401K, and we don't have the tens of millions of dollars. to do
So
that. That's
you're,
really what it comes down to.
be assured that we thought about that. And if we could afford to get there, we would. But we don't have the money, plain and simple.
If
Uh,
I,
Go ahead.
if I could just make a general comment, okay? I've been in this town a long time. I've been involved in this town a long time. And over the years, I have seen contracts issued to police, fire, DPW, and so on. And they've all had increased benefits, they've all had increased salaries, they've, you know, it's just been going up and up and up, okay? And that's the nature of it, and the times were a lot better then, probably, okay?
That's like double.
I can honestly...
Double increases, because if they get an increase, they get a step increase. That's 2 increases.
No, they don't get step increases. That's...
Don't they have different grades?
No, it's the teachers.
No, teachers, that's the teachers.
Oh, that's the school
contract.
department.
But I can honestly, and I say this truthfully, that I think these contracts that we have negotiated, okay, are starting to turn the other way. We never got 25, we had a 25-year retirement once for the police, and then it went back to 20. So, you know, I mean, it was always give, give, give. And I can honestly, truthfully say that I firmly believe that these contracts that we've just negotiated are the beginning of a turning point, where now we're getting contributions toward health and pension costs. You know, we're getting them today for when they retire. That, you know, they would have never gone for that 5 or 10 years ago. I mean, I really think we've reached, you know, a plateau here where it's starting to come around and starting to go back, or at least level off, if nothing else. So yes, there may be a cost, but it's still minimal compared to what it used to be. And some of the inroads that we've made will pay off as we go further.
And
I do.
Yeah, I think we've really, Mrs. Cook,
No, I'm just,
exhausted the
all I'm going to
subject
say
of-
is, I do hear you, Mr. Gonzalo, and I did hear the contract, and it sounded like you worked really hard. I was just talking about the future. That was all.
Okay.
Thank you.
We have any other questions, comments concerning the contract with the police union?
Just the one item to follow up with Mr. Leonard is that binding arbitration, the process itself is not free. And that just in legal costs is, you know, a number that is a 5-digit number and probably
Eat
would
up
have
all the
been-
savings you would have had.
And that's not,
Okay, Mr. President, I make a motion that we approve and ratify the IBPO contract with the impact statement, and with thanks to Mr. Gonzalo and to the police union for working together and coming up with this contract.
Second.
We have a second. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? And Mr. Pellich, you can rejoin us. Under bids and requests for proposals, the town administrator requests authorization to advertise for mowing services.
Yes, we have a mowing contract for town property, and the mowing contract is due to be renewed. It's not a fiscal year. This is different. It's a calendar year. So what I'd like to do is get approval of the council to go out to bid for mowing services for the next 3 years.
So moved.
We have a second. Any questions, comments? All those in, Mr. Nelson?
Just, Jim, could you help me understand the scope of this? Because I'm just looking at the letter from Nancy here. Proposals for lawn care of town recreational municipal facilities, including the Essex Public Library and the Union Library. So
Yes,
what
that's
are
always been included in.
So what are the recreational municipal facilities? That's like town farm, et cetera?
Town Farm, Bogamash.
Bogamash.
Down below here, Bayview, Town Hall.
So this does not include, like, the roadside stuff?
No.
That's done by union,
That's done by
town
our
employees?
DPW.
Yep.
Right.
Okay. Just as a matter of interest, why do we make the distinction between the two?
Between the two, which two?
The roadside that the DPW does and this that we go out to contract for?
I don't believe that the guy that mows has the equipment to do the roadside. And if he did, it would be probably more expensive.
Thank you.
Motion and second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Chief Blakey, request authorization to advertise to establish a list for position of police officers.
Good evening. As Mr. Gonzalo alluded to, we may have a couple openings in the future, in the near future, unfortunately. We have exhausted the current list. We're down to our last candidate, actually, for the vacancy we do have. It's imperative that we do move forward, and next academy class is in July. We're not going to make the January class. It's too difficult to get the process accomplished, so we do have to move forward. If we put someone in July academy, we don't anticipate having that person until March of 2014. Very serious conditions, situation at the department, which will affect our overtime greatly.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All those any questions, comments? Mr. Coulter?
Aye.
Oh, okay. All those in favor? Anyone opposed?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief. Town administrator items and announcements. Update on non-quit school property. Request authorization for a survey.
At the last council meeting, the council requested some information on non-quit school. And that was a survey estimate, a cost of asbestos survey, cost of demolition, and something on the septic system. Let me take the easy one first. Survey estimate. I've got two estimates for survey. One of them is $1,700, and it would include iron markers. I've got another for $2,470, which would include granite markers. If the council wishes to go forward with that, we can certainly do so. My suggestion would be to take the $1,700 one and sink the iron rods into the ground. We do need that no matter what we do with the property. We do need the survey accomplished so that we can describe the property that we're selling. So I would ask the council for a possible vote or comment on the survey.
Makes perfect sense to me. We just did the title, and every small step we take removes some of the uncertainty around the property, which we're going to need to do anyway. Any reason not to move forward a little bit here and there?
This is also the best time of year to do a survey,
Right.
with the leaves coming off the
Right.
trees and bushes thinning out and the snow not yet on the ground.
Line of sight and all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah.
So I will make a motion that we authorize a survey at a cost of $1,700 with iron markers for the non-quit school
Second.
property.
All those in
Yeah,
favor?
they're both local.
All those in favor? Anyone opposed?
I'll take the next easiest one. The asbestos survey. I don't have an estimate for that. Still trying to locate companies that will do this because, they're going to want details. They're going to want to look at the building, and I don't know if they'll give us a free estimate, but I'm still looking into it.
Could I suggest quite seriously, I mean, I'm going to butcher his name, but Mr. Pagliarini, is it?
Yes.
Who's on his own, allowing our firefighters to train on his own property? I mean, let's see if he'll come over and...
I did contact the person that's doing his.
Yeah.
No, I didn't do not the asbestos, no. But it just so happened with the next one, the demolition, I contacted 2 people that I could find on the internet, and one of them did not return my call, and I believe one of them is the one that he has demolishing his building. Okay, so we're not through with that yet. So the asbestos and the demolition, I don't have answers yet. But as I said, I did contract demolition. I did contact Coventry Building Wrecking and the demolition man.
Hi.
Hi.
I might have some referrals at the office. I'll look, because we have a lot of people who buy homes that there's asbestos, and we have to give referrals.
Welcome your information.
So I'll look at work and I'll see, and I'll drop stuff by for you.
Fine, thank you.
You're welcome.
So Jim, did I hear you agree that you would reach out to Mr. Pagliarini for the asbestos and for the demolition?
I will.
Thank you.
I think one of the things is we wanted to wait, we didn't want to be asking about it while they were already in the middle of it. For him, we didn't want to have any excuses about delays or anything like that. But now that his asbestos is completed, it makes good sense to do that.
I agree.
Now, the last one, septic. The Nantquit School has 2 septic tanks, and they are located in the front of the building to the east. And a few years back, there was an issue where there were roots growing into them. And DEM got involved in that. The roots were taken care of, and DEM said, okay, everything's fine. Well, at this point, they appear to be okay. We don't know. I haven't been able to convince John Lincourt to go down and look. But the situation is that DEM may require a suitability determination if there's a new intent for the building. If there's going to be a change in use, they may determine that they want to see a suitability determination. So that's where we are with that. I don't know that we need to go any further with the septic system unless, the council wants me to force John to go down. But no, they have cameras and things.
Do we know if it's a septic system or a cesspool?
It's a septic system, but we don't know where the leaching field is.
Probably under Native American remains.
So for its current use, though, DEM is at least theoretically signed off on it?
Yeah, it's okay now.
Okay.
But
As a
there
matter of
is-
fact, I've maintained.
The current use is very, very light.
I've also maintained.
Yeah, but once you do something, then they may change their mind.
I've also maintained the water license for it because it's a private water system. So I've also maintained the water license. So the well is okay. Which is on the west side of the building.
Under,
Does the council want me to take any further action other than the survey?
Well, we want to pursue the asbestos and the demolition.
Okay.
Yeah, I think as far as the septic is concerned, I think once we get closer, and that could be part of the issue in dealing with the purchaser, hopefully.
okay, Mr. Tights has also provided and distributed the Nonquit title report.
Yes.
Has been requested. Is there
This
any-
item was actually distributed to the council at executive session, but I wanted to get it out here as a public record item. So we put it on with Mr. Gonzalo's, so it's available to the public.
And Mr. Gonzalo, I take it, will update us on the other items, will update somebody.
Right.
Whoever's on the town council. at
As
the
we,
next meeting.
as we move forward, I will.
Okay. Council announcements, comments, and questions. Mr. Pelletier?
Oh, yeah, sorry. I just wanted to make some folks aware, there were a couple of questions in the process of creating an ordinance for outdoor hydronic heaters. It was brought to our attention that we may or may not have actually lifted the moratorium on outdoor hydronic heaters, and Andy confirmed that by virtue of passing the ordinance, it automatically, essentially, it lifted the moratorium on outdoor hydronic heaters. So I encourage anyone who wants to put one in to please continue. Yeah, continue your plans. So the moratorium is effectively lifted.
Okay.
That's all.
Councilor Coulter, New Seconic River Bridge tolls.
Thank you, Mr. President. An update on where things stand. We believe we're approaching 30,000 signatures on the petition, and stop reports having received, and this is very important, over 100 letters that document the adverse effect on you and your families and your businesses. Those letters will be crucial for what I think is our best defense, which is to challenge the economic impact at a public hearing. We need more of those letters. And because the council has resolved to support this process, you're free to contact the town clerk, who can help triage your requests and get you in touch with all the right people. We need more of those letters. Mr. Director Lewis recently wrote a letter to one of the citizens and confirmed that they think they will have completed their studies, their preliminary items by the end of this year. So we can probably expect those public hearings to start early, probably in I think January, February. Don't hold me to it, but so you've still got time. But it's very important that we have at this point. Letters are more important than signatures on petitions, quite frankly. If you have questions, one of your contacts other than the town clerk is to email tivertonstop@gmail.com. That's Tiverton, STOP@gmail.com. I think we already reported that the bridge ceremony was on October 5th. Some of us were there, and we sure made sure that the governor and everyone else understands our position very clearly. The local Tiverton Stop committees are forming. Chi Loriano and Joy Gilkison are your contacts there. Have to get those up and running. And finally, there's a fundraiser. It will be Friday, October 26th at 7 p.m. It's this Friday at the Secaunet Sportsman's Club at 145 Secaunet Drive in Portsmouth, Common Fence Point, Portsmouth. We've invited the entire General Assembly. I don't think they'll all come, but there will be many people there, and there'll be music and beverage and raffles, and it's $20. And I'm sorry, just Nancy, what is the best phone number for people to call you if they have questions such as?
They can call the clerk's office,
And what's that?
625-6703.
Six-
They'll get to
yeah.
me. Or Loriana.
They can send an email to the tivertonstop@gmail.com.
Yeah, just for those that don't have that don't do computers. If you don't have a computer and you don't use email, then call the town clerk at 625-6703. So come to the fundraiser and write your letters and start staffing these committees. That's my report. Thank you.
Councilor Shabbat?
Thank you, Mr. President. Just wanted to go over the November 5th. We all know it's Election Day. The polling locations have changed for quite a number of...
November 6th.
November 6th. What did I say? 5th. 6th, 5th.
That's early voting.
Early voting, that's true. Thank you. Out of looking at the voter list, out of 5,481 households, 2,012 will be voting in the same precinct as 2010. There were also 290 new households, so hopefully they'll know where they're going to go to vote. But out of those 5,481 households, 3,179 households will be voting in a different precinct than they voted in 2010. So that's more than half the households' voting population will be going to a different precinct. And just a reminder that there was a postcard sent out by the Board of Canvassers that had all the pertinent information for your location, for your voting. It has your representative district, Senate district, state representative district, and your precinct number, as well as your polling location and the address. So I just want to, if you could find these cards, I know they came out in March, a long time ago, so that you'll know where you need to vote. A lot of people will be voting in different locations. And if you are concerned, you're not sure of where you want to vote, I'm sure you can call the clerk's office at 625-6703. Thank you.
Mr. Leonard?
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. I just have something to add to that, please. I just wanted people to realize that we're now at the stage where we are accepting emergency mail ballots, and that will take place until 4 o'clock the day before the election. And I know that it is very confusing. We are already getting numerous calls in with people not knowing where they're going to vote or confused as to where they're going to vote because of the fact that we had an FTR election since, a special election since the time of the redistricting. We had the primary in September. At that time, we combined polls. We do not open all 7 polls. So you were going to a different poll at that time. For general elections, we open all district polls. Prior to the redistricting, we had 8 districts. We now have 7 districts. And there is the issue that's going to generate the 3,179, or whatever that figure was, of electors that are now voting. They have a different precinct number or they're voting in a different location. We have new poll locations such as Ranger School. We're using Pecasset School, VFW, Country View, Sandywood Farms, Amicable Church, and the high school is our key voting poll place for this election. There also is an entire new senatorial district which cut right through part of the town, changing what people were used to. We have had people come in here and actually vote their emergency ballot and say, I can't find my senator on your ballot. You must have gave me the wrong ballot. No, it's not the wrong ballot. You no longer have Mr. Felag if you were used to voting for him. If you are in that brand new district, 3304, you have a Senate District 11, which is Senator Christopher Ariano. So I just want you to know that the Board of Canvass has done as much as we can do. We sent out the postcards to every active and inactive voter. It was done in conjunction with the redistricting. We have put advertisements in the Secaunet Times last week, this week, and we will have one next week. We put it in the Fall River Herald and Newport, not this week, we did it last week, and it'll be next week, skipping a week there, a bit more costly to put in there. We have extra poll workers at the polls. We have definitely more than we've used in the past. We are trying to use alternate poll workers as greeters in case someone gets there and they're in the wrong polling place, because we expect the lines will be long. The ballot is a complete front and back. So it's going to take a little bit longer for you to go through the ballot. So everybody's going to have to be a little more patient. We've already gotten plenty of complaints coming through. We're trying to handle them as best we can. And we will, starting next week, we're going to have an extra person on at the town clerk's office just to handle the phone calls coming in saying, where do I vote, where do I vote? We encourage you to know where you're going to vote before you get to the location. So we are willingly accepting the calls. Call the town clerk's office. They've all been handling it as best we can. And we will have an extra poll worker staffed in there, or someone staffed in there with us next week. They can just handle those phone calls. Because you have to remember, in Tiverton, the town clerk's office is the board of canvass, and we have other duties as well going on in there. But we're handling as best we can, and we're just encouraging people, because just the idea of the map, which is all on the website, and we have tried to promote it as best we can, that is not telling you your street address. You really, that's not enough to let me know as an elected just exactly what district. Those postcards were the best notice you were going to receive. But at this point, we encourage you, if you're not sure, call the clerk's office. And be very patient on election day.
What's that number again?
That number is 625-6703.
And you also can go on the website. It will connect you to a link to the Secretary of State's, and it'll tell you where your polling location is as well.
Nancy, could you please repeat the date that those postcards were sent out?
It was sometime between March and April, and they went out to every active and inactive voter. So
Thank
we
you.
have a lot that were returned, meaning you no longer even in the town of Tiverton, or you have not voted in 2 federal elections. But we followed exactly what the Board of Election dictates down to us.
I'll make a brief remark about the card itself. They were somewhat innocuous. You really had to study it in order to understand its purpose.
Well, its
But, I mean, that's,
purpose-
you know,
The whole state of Rhode Island received them. The purpose was simply to inform you of the redistricting.
I got it.
And beyond that, we're just putting it out. We're doing as much, this is triple the advertising I usually do, to try and get the message out.
Counselor Leonard?
I just want to take a moment, Mr. President, to put a favorable comment on the record. I know tonight some people got very frustrated about our processes in this town, in this state, in this country. And we do have processes, and sometimes they're complicated and convoluted and laborious. But I just came back in relation to my job. I had a great opportunity to work overseas for almost 2 weeks, working with the university system to improve their education system. And in that country, they recently also had some changes. You know, we had a major, dramatic, in my opinion, improvement when we went to the financial all-day referendum. Well, in that country, they changed their situation by holding several months' worth of riots in the streets. So if you think our system is a little bit messy, I want to put a plug in for it, because what we do certainly beats what they did. Fortunately, I wasn't there during the active period, but I saw a lot of the damage that had been done, met some of the students who had been injured when the security forces reacted. So I just want to put a 3 cheers in for us. Thank you.
God bless America.
Okay. Under the heading of Town Solicitor, items and announcements, Mr. Tights.
Thank you, Mr. President. First item is a brief update on Tiger Tree, James Pelletier versus Tiverton. Nothing specifically new to report, other than the fact that Judge Nugent is no longer in Newport County. He's now in Kent County. Judge Dunberg hasn't been in Newport County for a while, so we expect to go forward with the new judges in Newport. We'll be probably seeing something going forward with that within the next couple of months. But at the moment, there's nothing scheduled. Second item, Vieira versus Tiverton et al. It looks like a lot. There's a lot of filings. Just to refresh your memory and for the benefit of the public, this is a case, Mr. Vieira has a very small lot at the very downhill western end of Haskins Street, Haskins Avenue, and has sued the town for civil rights, equal protection claims, and also for taking that he's not being allowed to build there. This case was dormant for a long time, came back last year. One of the issues that we did, the interlocal trust is defending it with us. They're defending on the civil rights claims while we're defending on the takings issue. And we had moved that there was a failure, dismissed for failure to name indispensable parties. In other words, the people who are actually have the obstructions that Mr. Vieira claims are preventing him from getting to his property at the end of Haskins Avenue. So those people were all served, and what you have here are the responses and answers and discovery requests from the other people along Haskins Avenue who have now been sued by Mr. Vieira. So just wanted you to have that for, as I do with all suits, so you have, if there's public filing, we provide it to you, put it out here so that the public knows what their legal fees are going to.
Mrs. Mello, any further announcements?
Okay, no, I don't have anything.
Mr. Roderick, do we have a motion for closed executive session?
I have a motion regarding Councilor Shabbat personnel, Rhode Island General Law 42465A1, performance evaluation of the town administrator, written notice provided.
We have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
And remaining in executive session regarding town solicitor, 42-465A2, potential litigation, site-ready materials and recycling company.
Second.
All those in favor?
Whoa, before you vote, get town administrators' announcements.
Well, we went through that, okay.
You went through, well, you went through his items and so forth, but just the announcements.
Okay, okay.
We
Push
can
back
move
the
back.
clock a little bit, and Mr. Gonzalo, any further announcements?
Okay, yes. Tax sale, which is scheduled for November the 9th at 10 a.m. here at Town Hall. At this point, we have 50 properties remaining, but Rhode Island Housing has not pulled theirs yet, which we expect that they will pull several of their mortgages. Tax collection, the second quarter results. We've collected 51.74% of our levy, and that is 0.15% ahead of last year. You will notice that the firemen this week are wearing pink. That is for breast cancer awareness, and you'll also notice that the policemen are wearing pink ribbons, and that's also for breast cancer awareness. Stafford Road at Hurst Lane, roundabout, we've been talking about that. Groundbreaking is going to be January 14th, 2013. The Senior Center will be having a Halloween party on Wednesday, October 31st at 2 p.m. Anyone interested will have to sign up for the party. And also with the Senior Center, their knitters and quilters will be having a sale between 9 and 3 p.m. at the Sconnet Bay Manor on November 3rd and 4th. And on November the 5th at the center, there will be a blue chip update meeting for the seniors, which is essentially is Part C.
Yep.
And I had a meeting this week with RIPTA representatives in an effort to reestablish service to this area. They will be considering it. They went off and went in several directions around town looking. We had discussions regarding possibly a connection at Bliss Corners or in North Tiverton somewhere, and at the Park and Ride. They said that they had noticed on the way into town that that was quite full, so that if that would be a meeting place, that they may have to request that DOT expand that Park and Ride. And what we were discussing was a connection from Tiverton to Bristol, where they could either go from there to Providence or there to Newport. But, I mean, anything would be an improvement, and they're going to send me some brochures, and they asked, you know, if we would have an open meeting to establish interest and requirements on the part of Tiverton and Little Compton residents. So that'll be forthcoming. That's all I have.
Any questions for Mr. Gonzalo?
Okay,
Okay, we have a motion and a second to go into closed executive session. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? We're now going into closed executive session.